Hello and welcome to Economics, Unit 3, pages 45 through 47. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, collective bargaining. We're building on to what labor unions do. So you're in a union, or you've got enough employees work together to want to make some changes or force your employer to make some changes. That process is called collective bargaining, and that's the process by which unions and employers negotiate the conditions of employment, for better or for worse. So what are the goals? The goals is contracts. If it's a job where contracts involved, like the terms of the contract, pay, how long the contract is, how do you renew the contract, a lot of those things. Obviously, sports, everybody's got a contract, and this is part of it. But it also could be for writers or a lot of construction workers who have contracts. Any kind of job where any kind of contract is involved, if they feel that their contract is not fair or there's something being left out of it, that could be one goal, trying to fix that. Maybe you're trying to get or improve fringe benefits. This is things outside of pay, like bonus potentials, like not increasing salary, but maybe incentives, health insurance, pension, stocks, any other things beyond just your base salary. Another thing you might be trying to fight for is working hours. Maybe you think your working hours are too long, or maybe you feel like you're not getting enough working hours. You try to support your family, maybe 15 hours a week is not enough. So maybe you collectively get together and say like, hey, you need to guarantee us at least this many work hours per week so we can survive. Working hours. Finally, you might argue for cost of living adjustments. Now, a costing of living adjustment, or a COLA, C-O-L-A, that means if you have that, then the employer automatically increases wages whenever there's a general increase in the level of, in the price levels of, cost of living, whether it's like food, rent, mortgage, all those things. If those things are starting to go up in your city, in your living area, then if you have cost of living adjustments built into your contract, then that would raise your wages to make sure that you're not falling behind price increases. So, what are different ways that you would do this? There's some ways that are more peaceful than others. One is mediation. If the two of you can't come to an agreement, then you might bring someone in, a lawyer, a judge possibly, or someone who's just professional at mediating conflicts. You'd bring them in and they try to help you guys come to a deal. Have someone who's neutral, not involved with either one of you, who's not going to take a side to help you guys work it out. You might have seen this in high schools and middle schools, conflict mediators. Boycotts. You can just stop buying anything that company makes. People who don't work for your employer might also join the boycott, because if no one's buying their product, or less people are, they make less profit. And then they might be willing to hear what you're saying, because then the loss of profit from boycott might be greater than just giving you what you want, depending on how much you're asking for. Strikes. That's where you just stop working. You get all the other employers and you just stop working. And you refuse to go back to work until they give in to your demands, or at least willing to talk to you. Another way is arbitration. This is not ideal, and it's kind of a gamble for both sides, but in arbitration you'll probably go before a judge, and you'll both make your case, and then the judge will just decide what the compromise is, what the decision is, and both of you have to deal with it. That's kind of like the last resort for when strikes, boycotts, mediation, everything else doesn't work. Arbitration is one way to finalize it, but you're giving all power to the judge, and he will tell you what you're going to do as an employer, as an employee, and what the employer will also have to do going forward. And the other thing you do is picketing. You see that a lot of people do this when they're not employees, and they usually do it while they're striking. They hold up those signs and make noise and stand outside the business to let people know what's going on with that business and why they're being treated, why they feel they're being treated so poorly. These are all different ways that you can collectively bargain to get an employer to give you what you want, though it doesn't always work. And there can even be a possible backlash. Maybe your employer just locks you out. This happened with the NBA. This happened with the NFL, where the NFL leader said, "Fine, don't work. We won't pay you. You will have no pay, and you won't work. And we'll see who budges first. We'll see who ends up starving first." So with the NBA and NFL, that creates an interesting situation because it's millionaires versus millionaires. But then if it's like, say, supermarket workers, how long can they afford to be locked out? Who's going to end up starving and getting desperate first? The employer or the employees? So an employer might try that tactic to try to punish you and get you to come back to work. Also, some cases there can be injunctions. That's where someone like the president can get a legal injunction from the courts and say, you have to go back to work. You cannot strike. And if you continue to strike, you'll be arrested. This is a result of the Taft-Hartley Act. Very controversial act because it allows presidents to actually infringe on your right to collectively bargain. It removes it from being a right, or demotes it from being a right to a privilege, one that can be taken away if the president thinks that you striking or you refusing to work will harm the economy or harm the country or security in some way. I have a picture of George W. Bush because, again, Taft-Hartley Act, really old. This action of injunction, not. George W. Bush did it in the 2000s with dock workers in the West Coast. They were striking. They didn't like how they were being treated. He felt, oh no, this is too bad for the West Coast economy. This will hurt too many people. You cannot strike. You have to go back to work. He forced them. And anyone that refused would be able to lose their job and not sue, or possibly even go to jail.